Hello again, and thanks for joining. So today we've got this really quite unusual three-car EMU to have a look at. It's from Röwa, or perhaps you actually pronounce that Röwa, I'm not quite sure. I spotted the logo here on the underside of the central carriage. But because this model didn't come with a box, I don't know what the part number is. It is modelling a Deutsche Bahn EMU here. Also, this model is in really bad condition. It's got so much dirt on it as well, and some of the pieces have fallen apart. So we're going to clean up this model, try and see if we can get it running and make it look a bit better than it currently is. But first, let's have a look at what we've got here. So this is one of the two unpowered cars. The motor and the drive is all in the middle car. It's quite a characterful front to this model. It's got this blue and cream colour. A little destination board up here. We can just see Flughafen there, so it's obviously an airport. And there is what looks like a light up here. I'm not sure if it's got illumination on this one. We have another two lights down here, and the glass on these looks as though it's actually stuck on the outside because it's quite pronounced out from the body shell. But the windows are flush fit and look really good, and they've got these really nice windscreen wipers moulded in as well. They're not super clear though, but you can see inside that we do have that driver there at the controls, and it looks as though we have got moulded controls in there as well. We do have this strange hole here, which I think is for a coupling to go in, but it looks as though it's broken off. I noticed on the other one we do have something in there. Let me just show that to you. This is the end of the other carriage, and you can see it has a coupling here. It also has a different destination here. This one says Sanderfeld. So back with the first one again. Underneath here you can see that the chassis is coming away from the body as well, which is a shame. I'm going to have to try and see if we can fix that. But looking down the side of this carriage, we've got a good representation of the door here, but the moulding doesn't have deep relief on it. It does have handrails here, which have got a bit of silver paint on them, and some numbers up here. The printing looks to be pretty good, as is the difference between the blue and the grey. So the model is moulded in the grey, the blue is printed on. We've got the second class here and the middle doors with a bit of silver in between. But the blue isn't so good at this part here where this door handle is. The windows do look good and they've got these silver surrounds. Starting to look a bit old now. You can see inside we've got a two-part interior, a grey floor, and we've got some red seats in there. And we have four sets of passenger doors here, so this is obviously a commuter train. What does look quite good though is the chassis. It's got a lot of printing on it, lots of little numbers and details, and some nice grille detail here, lots of little hatches and interesting parts. And finally at this end it's quite plain, there's no connector between these carriages, it just has these parts here moulded into the main piece of plastic and this simple buffer as well. You can see that it has some electrical connection here going from the middle car to this car, and I have noticed actually underneath that it also has pickup. This bogie seems to be missing its bottom part. And then if we look at the front bogie, it has the typical stud which you would see perhaps on a Fleischmann model, and this one does have the plastic panel at the bottom there. These wheels revolve fairly freely, and the bogies have a fair degree of movement as well, and a little bit of up and down movement too. But they are actually really good mouldings. They've got some really nice detail there. Even the pipework on the axle boxes looks really good, and the brakework and sanders. So that is actually quite a nice moulding for the bogie. On the roof it's quite plain. Got some dirt here and you can see just what a state this model is in. The middle car is even worse than this, but it's fairly plain here on this panel. This is a separate part. I've noticed it is coming away as well, and we've got some air vents on here, but not a lot of detail. I guess that's prototypical. This is the other trailing car, so it looks as though one is pushed and one is pulled. This one seems to be missing a little plastic insert here between the middle of the doors, and you can see it's missing also on this set, but we have it in two other places. So this train does seem to have had a bit of a checkered life with a few bashes here and there. There's a scratch coming down here, for example, as well. Underneath both the trailing cars we have this hatch, which when we open up looks like this. We've got some contacts here. I'm not quite sure what these are doing. So now we come to the central carriage where it's quite a lot heavier than the two trailing ones, and it also looks a lot more bashed and very dirty as well. I don't know what has gone on with this train, but it's certainly been through the wars. This one has a first class section on the first two doors here. Above we have this yellow stripe which has been printed on to represent the first class. It doesn't go very well over this part here. It looks like an air vent. So the printing isn't really that good, but the numbers are good there, and you can see the first class there as well. Moving further down it becomes second class. The interior looks pretty good, but we can spot a little wire here in this window. And around this side we are also missing the centre between these doors here as well. And you can see that it's just fallen apart with the cables hanging out here. And we have these bogies which look identical to the ones on the trailers, but these ones are actually driven. Amongst all this dirt here, there's actually some really nice pantographs here, and you can see that it has pickup from these as well, which is good. It's got some metal parts in there, but this one does look as though this piece is broken, and it should have run the whole length of the carriage through these insulators here. But the pantographs do look really good, and they're still working, which is great. And it has some nice rivet detail on this panel here, and these walkway checker plate things are looking pretty good too. And I did mention about the dirt as well. You can see here that it is actually just caked in dirt. It probably needs a real good cleanup as well. But I think first we'll try and solve some of the electrical problems and the fit of this model, which is just coming apart as you can see here. So now with the model apart, we can see that we have the two bogies here with a can motor in the middle. There's no flywheels on here, we've got a couple of extra weights and a lot of electrics into this model. We do look as though we have a bit of a problem here at this bogie. Underneath here, you can actually now see that we've got red seats for second class and blue seats for first class, so that's quite a nice touch. We also have these cables going up inside the main moulding, and we can also take the roof off as well. So the roof just pulls off, and you can see underneath that we have indeed got connections to the overhead pantographs and a wire coming down to the motor. And these other wires come up to the top where we've got a lighting unit with two bulbs, one here and one at the other end of the carriage. So I can't see anything broken on this model, but it is actually really dirty, so I'm going to give that a bit of a clean. So that actually took an awful lot of effort to get that back together. It seemed to be that the wires were just routing all over the place, and then you'd get one bit in and then another bit wouldn't go in. I think I've got there in the end, and I've also removed this part here, which I think was probably part of the electrical gear on the roof of this carriage, but it's obviously broken, so I'm just going to remove it for now. So hopefully this will work okay once we put it on the test track. I'm just going to see if I can repair the two unpowered carriages as well. Okay, so I've tried to take apart the two trailing unpowered coaches, but they seem to be glued together by maybe the previous owner. These are second-hand after all, and there is a little bit of movement here where the two halves just aren't quite matching perfectly. And that's most evident here at the front, where these two parts have got still quite a lot of movement in them. Possibly a little bit of glue could help that, but I'm not so keen on gluing this back together just at the moment. And then maybe we should put these on the test track and see how they go. Okay, I've got the middle car on the test track. Let's give it some power. I'm not very hopeful, but let's see what happens. Well, I am actually really surprised about that. This model runs really smoothly, can go along at a very slow speed, and even all the lights work, and the destination board's illuminated. The headlights didn't illuminate though, but I don't think they're meant to. But what is strange is that all three of these items need to be coupled together in order for it to work. I guess it must be a combination of how it's picking up power and transmitting it across the train. And certainly those little couplings that are used on this model seem very delicate and prone to breaking. So maybe this is a model which you have to set on your railway and just leave it there. But it's great news that it does actually work. So I think we should put these on the scales so then we can see how much they weigh. So the first carriage weighs 173 grams. The other carriage is slightly lighter at 172, and the middle drive car is 228. So this 3-car EMU from Röwa has actually been quite a surprising model to have a look at. The first thing I was surprised about was actually that Röwa did this model. I never knew that they did anything other than railway wagons. So the fact that they're doing an EMU is quite interesting, and I think they've done not a bad job here. This model is clearly showing its age, though there are many things about it which aren't good, especially the way the body and the chassis connects. It's really not very good at all, and the chassis seems to be warping a little bit with age. Some of the fit and finish isn't so good either, especially around the lights at the front and how the roof connects onto the body. But there are many things which are really good on this model. The pantographs and the electrical equipment. Okay, this one's a bit broken, but still it's quite impressive. And it has really nice glazing on these carriages, especially on the front. They've managed to hide a motor inside the middle power car and all the electrics as well below the level of seating. So you've got some seating inside there, and you could add some passengers into this train so that the driver isn't all just lonely on his own. There are some limitations with the decoration, especially around the windows, where you can see some of the body colour coming through. It should be blue, but it's actually just showing there, and it shouldn't be. And the lights on the front of this train I think are really quite poor. They just seem to be stuck on pieces of plastic and they don't even illuminate either when the destination boards do. So it's a bit of a strange combination, that one. The other thing that really surprised me about this is that it actually ran and it runs really good. It's so dirty inside and on the outside. I don't know what's going on with this model, and yet it goes along at a really nice slow speed with no problems. It's very smooth when it's running. So it's a bit of a strange one, this. I guess it's indicative of the age of this model. It's probably quite old now, but it has been really interesting to have a look at. Let me know what you think about this model in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put one of these on the turntable so you can see all the way around. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See ya!
Think about it. Only